functionality that they have with better prompting, or if they don't know exactly what the best way to work with AI. And you can kind of inform your board or your staff that you've updated your data policy to include AI data privacy, or you have some new things in the employee handbook about what you can and cannot use AI for. So I think the best thing to do, and Brad's done this team, I've done this with teams, is just ask the question at the next staff meeting that you have with the people that this is relevant for. Like, how are you using AI right now? Because they're using AI right now. It's just how is really more of what you want to know. And I would cue this up in a way that isn't like you're about to be in trouble. Get ready. But having an open-handed kind of conversation for you, it's less about do you use AI? It's more about kind of, I think, how. Let's just get to the question of like how are you using AI? And then I would like take note of what your team is saying, because there's going to be some really helpful nuggets in there for you to make decisions that work best for your organization moving forward. Some people will say they're not using AI at all because their job is to use a hand truck and to deliver groceries. And you're like, great, sounds good. Like, check that. Okay, good to know. Some will say like, I'm like, I want to use it for my job. I would like to see some delivery of the promise of AI being able to help reduce my workload, or maybe make things more efficient, or maybe just help me get better at my job, or but I don't have an exact use case for that. And that's a wonderful opportunity, because then you get to work with somebody who's on your team, or maybe a core volunteer who says, yeah, I want to get better and I want to use this. I'm just not sure where to start. And at the very least, you can say, great, what's some repetitive, time intensive tasks that you have right now? Let's work together to find something, and I'll share what I know about this to just get you started. Because if you're hungry to find ways to become more efficient or use technology to help our organization, I would like to fan that flame and help lead you responsibly in that. And even just the few things that we covered yesterday about what AI is, how to use it, ways to use it, are beneficial things that a lot of people on your team who are AI curious or already using AI probably aren't considering already. And you don't have to be an expert in order to help equip them with kind of finding some good ways to use it. It also puts this on your radar, because whatever the AI curious people in your organization, when they're thinking about these tasks and things, that also cues you to the things that they're feeling the most burden from, right? The most overwhelmed. They're like, if I didn't have to do this anymore, it would certainly be helpful. So I think it's just a great, and that's why I think it's a great staff meeting question. If someone's already using AI, then you can have a conversation with anyone that needs to be involved in the decision making, or if it's just you, you can make a decision. But that's like a trigger for, okay, should this person be on a paid plan? What kind of work are they using it for? Is this a privacy documentation conversation? Do I need to equip them with their own plan the same way that I've given them their own work email? So that I can then say, hey, you're using AI regularly for work. I like the way you're using it. I understand why you're using it. We're seeing benefits from it. That's beautiful. But like, we have some policies around it. And we're providing you with your own dedicated work AI account now. And so here are the policies, the do's, the don'ts, things to be mindful of. A lot of the same policies when you hand them the login information for any CRM or their own email. You say, this is our expectation of how you use this, and we're providing it for you. So keep your personal stuff over here. Because if they're already using AI in order to help get their work done, then they might be on a free plan, or they're on a paid plan that is their own plan that they might be mixing personal stuff into. So it's just best to kind of create some clarity and untangle those knots from a way of like working together instead of reprimanding everybody. But those are the three most common like buckets that you will start to get clued into who's doing what and how. That will put you more in the driver's seat of being able to make decisions that you can defend to your board or to your budget when it comes to who needs a paid plan, or who's not using AI, and you don't really need to have a good conversation with them. That kind of gives you some handles to that. Okay, good here. Cool. And then decide, like the paid plan question, who's using it regularly for AI? I recommend those people get a paid account. I totally understand that a paid account is a paid account because it costs money. And money is what money is, like, and not everybody has like a software line item in their budget or can just say, right, let's put 50 people on a paid team account. But it is a conversation that's worth having. Please look into the nonprofit discounts. It's just worth it for the people who are using it for all the reasons we've already discussed. And then communicate like this account is for work purposes only. It really should be a pretty straightforward conversation. But now you're in the know. So the things that might be happening without any kind of leadership and AI usage is kind of off the table, and you're more aware of what's going on. And then share, like teach what you know. You can hand them a starter prompt library. A starter prompt library is the prompts that you're using, the prompts that you started creating yesterday to help you do tasks. If you yesterday worked on one to help you with grants or with posts or with newsletters, like I touched on yesterday, that is something that you can copy and you can share, or you can create an ongoing document for your team and say, hey, here are all really good starter prompts that we use to do work that have worked well for me. I think they'll work well for you. Like use these to get started and it will save us all time. And if you come up with a prompt that helps you do something really well, I want to know about it because I would love to save time doing that thing too. So let's work collaboratively because we all have the same context of our organization. And let's start to build a little document prompt library for our organization where we can share these things together. Because if you've already put the time into making it and getting it good, then it's going to save me all of that time. And we can continue to just leverage the time savings of having these prompts that already work for our organization. If your team is putting in generic prompts and they're like, yeah, I use AI, but it hasn't been very good. I don't think it works. It's like, well, now you know how to navigate that conversation a little bit and say, oh, what are you putting in there? Do you know what's helpful? Context, goals, and specifics. I think you're going to get a better result. If they get better results, then you get better results, right? Is this safe for work? Well, hey, we have a paid account. We got a couple things going on here. Well, here's a paid account. And like, this is not something that you share with other people. And or this is a paid account and I do not want you to put any information from these sources into this. That's not what it's for. I want you to use this to do public facing things. I want you to use this to help summarize meeting notes. I want you to use this to kind of go back and forth and generate some post ideas. Maybe just help you talk through and clarify your ideas for the next meeting. I don't want you to put any donor sensitive data in here. Okay? Those are your decisions. Check privacy settings. You guys know how to do that. Help them with that too. Okay. Table discussion. Oh, break time. I will ask like any questions on kind of leading with AI, talking to your teams about it. Okay, good. From here on out, I actually kind of want to get a little over our skis, well, not over our skis, but I want to kind of sneak peek into 201 a little bit, if that's okay. Because we had like some really great questions yesterday where as people started to feel more comfortable with like the conversation and they started to see like, oh, okay, yeah, I get prompting, this is working. A lot of people started looking at this bar on the left and they were like, what's this? I was like, oh, these are good questions. These are good questions. I'm going to pay, this is a screenshot from my desktop version of Claude. So you probably won't see if you don't have it, you won't see the co-work or the code kind of thing, but you'll still see these top three on the left-hand panel of your LLM. They all kind of have similar functionalities. They just have slightly different names, different models, different flavors. It's all ice cream. So I wanted to talk about a few of these because it's the next best evolution of what you're doing within a chat. Because once you feel good within a chat, this is how we start to organize some of those things. And so it's important for you because there's no reason you need to wait 3 weeks for 201 to just keep going. Like, I hope you don't. I hope that for everyone who comes to 201, by the time you're at 201, you're like, I just did these like 9 or 10 things to try it. These 5 are broken. Like, I'm here to fix them. Like, that is the best way to show up to 201 is to say, here's all the stuff I did that doesn't work, but I want to do. Like, let's figure it out. And let's work through it. And let's fix it while we're there. So that's going to be the 201. So let's talk through these in the left sidebar. Again, we're still just within the chat component, but I want to cover what they are so that you guys can start to integrate them into your work. Okay, what's in the left-hand sidebar? We've got projects for Claude. We've got custom GPTs if you're on chat. Gemini used to call them gems. I think now they're called notebooks. But essentially, these are all kind of folders. Projects, custom GPTs, gems, is all different. They're all in custom language, but on the left-hand side, we'll see one of these. Even if you're on the free account, which has more limited access, but they're still available. And this is like a folder for your chats. There's also artifacts, which we'll talk through that you'll see on there. That is like a saved space where anything that you create in a chat goes so that you have access to it and you can edit and work on it. And then there's some custom instructions that you can put in here. And this is like instructions that are holistically going to be applied to your entire account. So things like, we are a food bank that was established in 19 whatever, like the things that are going to be unchanging context for your entire organization, you can put into the settings so that all of your chats just know that from the get-go. You don't have to continuously repeat yourself in that way. So some good time savings in here. Let's take a look at each one of these. So projects or custom GPTs or notebooks or gems, these are persistent workspaces. Is everyone who's kind of looking in the left-hand side, most of you guys will see these things? We good? It's gonna help. Yeah, most, okay. All right. So if you go in and you look at projects, free plans, you've got like limited or some unavailable functionalities. If you're on a paid plan, you have full access to running all of this stuff and doing it. And then team, same thing. You can start to do some shared projects. And I think that plays into some of the admin, like this is where some of the admin and permissions come in. If you have a team account, you can start to share certain projects with one another. These essentially are folders for your chats. So if you have a theme like grant writing or marketing, or for those of you who have multiple clients, if you want to just have a folder or project for a specific client, and then you have all of the chats that are in there are going to be relevant to that project. Okay, does that make sense? So here's, let's see. This is what a project looks like within Claude. They all have very similar components. Yours just might look like it's a little bit different. You can see in here that this project is called Jessup. We've got the chat bar, which you already know how to use, right? But these are past chats that are organized within this one project. So if I want to work on things that are just dedicated to Jessup, I can go in here and I see just my chats that are related to that topic. That's the benefit of folders. Instead of getting all the one-off chats off down the side, I actually can organize them by topic. I can put in some things for it to remember for all of the conversations. So the context element that we talked about for good prompting can get saved in here. So when I'm in this folder working on these things, this will always be true. My name will always be Nicholas. I will always be a professor of visual communication. And I'm using Claude as a strategic academic partner to help me refine and update some of my lecture notes. That's always going to be true when I'm working in here. I can tell it once and I never have to tell it again. That's the time savings that is introduced with projects. I can add custom instructions for Claude's response. This is where I could say, I always want you to play the devil's advocate here. If we're in here, I don't want you to be sycophantic. I want you to challenge the things that I'm saying, and I want you to be concise about it. Please be concise about it. I can also upload any dedicated files. So I could upload all of the past lectures that I've ever done in here, and so that the chat can recognize and work off of that and understand that. So this is just like a little ecosystem that has components where we've got saved context. I can add files to this where it will be able to pull information. Like this is a good context knowledge base, right? And then I've also got the chats, but just the ones that are relevant to this topic. Yes.
Will it automatically pull context from the files, or do you need to tell it to do that?
This is just like a knowledge base it has access to. So in a chat, I could say, hey, look at my fourth lecture last year. It ran a little long. Help me find where I can trim out some of the content. Or look at my 8th lecture last year on AI and help me update the policies to what's relevant for 2027. And it will have access to that personal knowledge base. So this is where you get to start doing the fun stuff of pairing your personal custom knowledge base with the large language model knowledge base in order to do some pretty tremendous stuff. But this will keep it more organized. And this is where we were talking yesterday about getting like clients into different projects or folders. So this will help alleviate some of the overwhelm with having 50 different chats. And then when you're sunsetting chats and moving stuff, it can get, the more fun you have with it, the more out of control it can kind of get from there on set. So projects are the best way for just the chat model to start organizing those things. In here, Drew has a question.
I got one question that I already answered on the one up, but I thought maybe it would be relevant for everybody. So when we're talking about, you mentioned this yesterday, Nick, that for context, don't use phrases like, or always use this type of language, or don't always agree with me. Those types of things. Should I put that at the project level, or is there a better spot to put some of those foundational elements?
There's so under customize, I'll show you the settings where you can do it if you want it to apply to everything that you write within your LLM holistically. I like putting that into instructions project by project because I have slightly different specifications for different clients or different projects based on what that project is about. And so I like customizing that on this level, the same way that I would give like 4 different team members slightly different detailed instructions of what will help them do whatever task they're working on. Yeah, great question. Yes.
As far as I know too, and anybody here can validate this, the project when you're in a project, it doesn't read your custom instructions that you have in your global settings. You have to pull any of those into the project instructions.
Yeah, it'll read those and you can put it in here, or you can add to the memory of it, which is nice. Because if it comes up with anything, you can say, hey, remember this, and it'll move it into memory so that you have this. So it's a really good way for you to create. This is where it goes from we're having a conversation with AI to I've got a workspace that leverages AI. And this really starts to become a functional workbench and desk for you because now you have different folders you can open up and say, I'm working on this today. And all of the context, instructions, and memory that I need AI to have in order to be a tremendous partner for me on this task is saved, and it's there, and it's done, and it's organized. So it's like having a functional filing cabinet, right? We've got all that in the same place.
Okay, this is a very basic question. So I have started a chat, and now I realize that it is relevant to a folder I have.
Okay.
Do I then say, please copy this to the Jessica? Like, how do I get it over there if I haven't started the chat in the folder?
Right. To migrate it.
Yeah.
So 2 options. I think some of the LLMs will let you just migrate it into a project. Or passing the baton is like really effective. You could say, I'm starting a project to continue working on this. Please give me a prompt that summarizes all of the great work we've done here that I can hand off to a new chat in that project.
And GPT has in the ellipsis, if you click the ellipsis on the top right, on any chat, there's a move to projects.
Yeah.
And I think there's a similar one in Thought, I just can't remember where it's at. Yes. Okay.
Like, yeah, next to the chat.
Keep going.
Okay, good. That wasn't there at the end of last year, so that's great. Yeah. Good. Okay. The next one, artifacts, just to clear this up, artifacts is just stuff. It's just the stuff that your LLM has made for you. Claude calls them artifacts, Chat canvases, Gemini canvases. It's all the same. There's some information here between the free and paid plans. This stuff was added since I printed the notes for you, so it's not in the notes that you guys have, but it will be in the follow-up email where all of the slides are because it's now in there. So a little bit about the free and paid plan. This is if Claude or Chat, or if your LLM creates a document for you, it's going to put it into artifacts. It's a thing that it is made for you, so you can go in there and you can look at it, and then you can edit it within there. This is a view of what that looks like. Let's see. So this is a good example of, a privacy consideration that I just completely neglected because I didn't look at any of this shot. So we've got like a big day of giving proposal, community foundation outreach plan in here, a year-end email campaign system, coaching feedback notes from FastPitch, which you should totally do. So this is when I click on artifacts on the left, this is exactly what pops up. And these are all from different chats. This was not from one chat. It's just when it created stuff for me in a chat, it saved it here. So if I'm looking for files, I don't have to go through this chat. Is it in here? Scroll. No, it's not in here. Go to the next one. If I'm looking for stuff, if you're looking for stuff, this is where it is.
I downloaded a Excel spreadsheet and wanted it to make a new one, update the project plan.
Okay.
All my tasks, but it isn't appearing in my artifacts. Does that not count
As a spreadsheet?
as an XLS doc? I mean, that's
What LLM
in plot.
caskets? Say I don't see this in my artifacts. Is there a reason why?
There you go.
Yeah. It does bring up a good point that there are, and what I don't have in here is the specifications of which file formats artifacts like in each different LLM. Because I ran into that too with, there was one that like gave me a CSV file, but it wouldn't put it in artifacts. And I can't remember if it was Claude or if it was Chat. But there's so many different file formats, and there's some that it's still getting used to being able to populate here. So if you have something that's generated, I think the best thing to do is just download it while you're in the chat, and save it. But if you go looking for something, this is most likely where it is if it's generated it for you.
Nick,
Did
does
give you an answer?
stuff that's been generated or that you've uploaded?
Then generated.
Okay, because we've just been generating some stuff and it's not going into artifacts automatically.
Oh,
So we're restarting and trying it, but I thought it would too, so.
okay.
It's going into the outputs folder, it says, whatever that is.
I had that problem and it says artifacts are for contact that vendors in the chat interface, but a Word document is a binary file that can't be rendered that way. So it says I need to like download it and then download it back.
Okay, all right. So it's an organization space. It's what it's meant to be. Things change fast.
No, that's-
It gave me the option to recreate it as a markdown or HTML artifact.
And then it can put it in the artifacts. when
So I
it
can ask
flashes on that.
Yeah.
I did that yesterday with somebody too, where it was a doc. I think it was in Gemini, and it wasn't in there, but we said, could you add it to artifacts? And it was like, oh, sure. And then I was like, probably should have just done that from the beginning. But it did move it in there once we asked it to. These customize is one you'll see on the left. These are like universal settings for most of them. This isn't something that I think you have to do. This just, I want you to know where that button is referring to, where it takes you. This is if you want something that's universally true for all the chats that you have in your conversation. And so like instructions for Claude in your settings, you can see this if you just are like in the settings section. Claude will keep these in mind across chats and co-work. For example, like when learning new concepts, I find analogies particularly helpful. That just means that it will remember these instructions universally across all of your conversations. So it is a good spot if you want to put like organization data or things that are just going to continue to be true without needing to change any kind of context. I clearly don't have anything in there. It's not a must, but it is a good setting to be aware of in case you have that. Yeah.
Would this be a good place to put like information on your brand voice?
Yeah, you could put that in here as long as that's going to be true for all the different versions of content that you're creating. So if you have a slightly different voice when you're workshopping content that's going out from your executive director versus the organization, if those are two slightly different voices, then you wouldn't want to put it in here because it's going to do just one.
Mhm.
But if everything going out more or less has some holistically like or like some universally true things to it, then yeah, in the settings for any one of them, you do have a spot where you can put that.
Okay.
I think about this more like reactive. Like if you as you're chatting, if you find yourself saying the same thing like 3 times or 4 times, that's your cue to go into the settings and just find a way to put it in here.
Mm.
Or if you're using a project, that's the cue. If you have to say the same thing 3 times, that's your cue that you need to go and you need to save that somewhere, so you don't have to say it a 4th time.
There are some really helpful guides that you can find online that will give you a good starting place for the generic stuff to put in your instructions, and those can be customized, right? So this is where I put things like "don't agree with me," "don't apologize," "don't use dashes," "don't use phrases like," right? So I try and get it to sound like less like AI and less conversational because I don't want to have a conversation. I want output, right? So if I always want these things to be true, they go in instructions. Or to the next point, if it's only for a specific project, you put it on the project.
Yeah. I've also had certain projects where as I'm iterating, I get really tired of listening to its train of thought and like reasoning behind things. Because like Drew, I'm like, I'm just trying to get to a particular outcome. And like honestly, if I was overly concerned about how we got there, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you, Claude. So like spare me all of the train of thought and reasoning. I just want your response. Like I just want to know where you're landing on this response, and that's going to cut down on the whole context of the conversation, the amount of reading you're doing. It's going to allow you to be in that chat longer before it starts to drift because there's just less stuff. So all of those kind of personal things and preferences. Again, the note is as you're using it, and that's why we say like just jump in and start trying, because as you go, you'll find the things that you're repeating. You'll find the things that it's doing consistently that you don't like. You'll find the things that you're constantly editing when you're having it do written material for you. And those things, as soon as it's happening multiple times, it's just a note. It's a trigger for you to say, where can I save this so it doesn't happen again? Find a way to reduce the amount of repetitive work that you're doing with your own LLM. Okay? Cool? Okay. We go into, I think I've got a couple. Yeah, we'll go bigger into, yeah, so we'll continue that. A couple things that came up yesterday that I thought were really good. Observations or questions, just a couple of these. Subscription creep was a sentiment that people had expressed or were curious about when it comes to paying for AI. Because we've experienced this in many areas. Video on demand would be probably one of the easiest examples of this, where you're like, well, we got Netflix and Netflix is only like 18 or 20 bucks a month, but like my kids like Disney. So now we have Disney Plus. We buy things on Amazon and Apple TV has F1. So we need that. And it's like a white guy turning 40. So, I watch baseball. So we need baseball. And all of a sudden, I'm like, how is it that we started with like $18 and now like we're paying like $110 to have TV across all these subscriptions, right? There's that subscription creep. With AI, what I would say is you do not need to go and start paying for every single model in all different ways. Where you are, where you're comfortable, what works for your team, just start there and avoid this shiny object syndrome of then paying for this and then paying for that and then paying for this. The scope creep is much different in this space than it is in something like video on demand or any other subscription services that you have in your life, and you've seen those. So I want to alleviate, like, the best way to alleviate the financial concern that you're paying 20 bucks right now, and then next year you're going to be paying for like 6 of these things. Stay where you are, find the plan that works for you, and then you can just stay there. All of the different models, like we talked about, have some unique differences and variations. Look at them, research them, find what works well for your team, find what works well for your budget with the discounts, find a place where you want to be, and then just say yes to accepting being there for a year. It's okay. If you need to end up moving, or if you end up wanting to kind of dabble and like use another tool as well, like you can do that and try it out, and then you can cancel it. And honestly, most of them are like, hey, if you need to build a project in something like Lovable or Replit or whatnot, you can do it for free and just see what happens. So it's a valid concern, but I think the right thing is to say there's no perfect answer. There's no perfect destination. choose one that works well for you and know that it's all kind of similar flavors, but it's all essentially the same thing, and feel comfortable being in that space for a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be helpful to get some feedback from folks that have started down the subscription journey on things. For things like we talked about Whisper Flow a little bit yesterday, and some of those ancillary tools that are paid tools outside of the LLM models.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hear some of the use cases for people for why they've invested in those extra things and how they're using that outside of what you're saying at stages at the bottom.
Yeah,
That would be helpful.
I'll lead off, and I can tell you that I pay for Whisper Flow because it's, I think, $140 on the year to have a transcription service, and I like talking. And so, but that is a personal expense that I pay for.
Right.
I have not asked any one of either my clients or like anybody that I work with to invest in that. So it's an example of something that might be a personal choice for somebody. I work from home in an office where I can talk all day and use AI in that regard. And that's an option for me. So it makes sense for me to have that tool. But it's not a perfect fit for everybody. And it certainly might not be the best fit to just go out and buy equipment and use it for like your whole team, right? Like you could provide the LLM and then say, hey, if you prefer talking instead of typing, and that's something that you want to do, because I think I've been using it for like 3 months and I'm already at like over 300,000 words. So it's like, for me, that's a huge time savings. That was like a personal, like, this will help me. So I paid for that.
So how does that work differently than just having Claude on your phone and speaking into?
Oh, so the transcription service, it works because it's anywhere that a cursor is. So it's not just AI exclusive for Whisper Flow. So when I'm working with AI, like I use it. But if I go into Gmail and I'm answering emails, I just like click a button and then I talk out the email and I click it and it has it there. If I open up like text messages, I can just talk like anywhere a cursor is. Like that's where Whisper Flow works. So it's more holistically a transcription tool.
I'd just say also the level of accuracy is just a whole nother level from the built-in tools.
Right, it's a way better.
It is, it's much better. Yes, it has not told my wife I'm stripping for gas yet.
Yes.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any examples for like their team of like paid services or like tools or subscription creep or anything? I know we're all kind of like just getting into it, so. Yes, sir.
I use, I have several subscriptions. But I'm a developer too, so I have a lot of tools in that arena, but I use ChatGPT, I think about $20 a month, right? And so that's a very good one for just general research. Find me some information about this topic, whatever, right? And then, I use Claude, which is a local online machine, and that one's a little bit more expensive, $7 a month, but it pays for itself and the work that I do. So that's back to what Nick said. You gotta identify what word you're trying to do with the guy to choose the right kind of tool that you would use to do. There's, I use Whisper as well, but I also have an actual transcription, which monitors everything I say, everything I do is recorded. At the end of the day, I get a summary. This is all the stuff you did. These are the action items out of that day. So that's a very useful thing as well. If you're doing a lot of meetings or talking with a lot of people, it's good to have that transcription available at the end of the meeting. Right? And I usually share those with whoever was there. I'll send the results out so that everybody has a listing of what took place. Those are very good use. They're worth them.
Just want to share my 24-hour lesson that I subscribe to Claude because I want to get into vibe coding eventually. That seemed like a good one, but I also do a lot of graphic design and I like using these tools to kickstart ideas.
Oh, okay.
And Claude's graphics suck.
Yes.
So I've had a lot better luck with ChatGPT on the free version. So now I'm probably going to end up subscribing to both because I already signed up for the whole year of Claude and the graphics were horrible. So just in case that's going to be your main thing. Probably not.
Example of like different LLMs and different strengths, because Claude Design came out, I think it's like 3-4 weeks only into like Claude Design. I hope that I also with you, and I hope that it gets better. It also takes a ton of usage right now, so like you hit your usage limits really fast. doing some of the design stuff. But yeah, you need like I have a paid Claude and Chat account because there's certain things that I'm like, Chat's gonna do this better. And but I would say with subscription creep, like don't pay for stuff because it's there. Pay for something that solves a problem or overcomes a constraint. If you're not in a position where you're going to spend your time dictating tasks or work or rehearsing for a workshop lecture, you don't need a transcription service. You don't need to add that on. But if that's going to help remove a constraint or solve a problem, then say yes to that, right? I think that's the main takeaway. You don't have to get too ambitious about saying yes to all the things. Use what you have, and then when you run into a problem or you see a path to make things better, then say yes to that because you already know it's going to solve a problem or overcome a constraint that you're running into. Get something else.
Right, so back to what she just said about Claude being crappy with the AI or with the images.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I have both platforms as well. But what you can do is ask Claude to create a prompt to generate the image because it knows the code base that you're working with. So it can generate a better prompt that you can hand off the chat. And so
Yeah.
then chat generates a very beautiful image that goes along with the code.
Yeah.
So it's a passing the baton thing.
And Drew, I say yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've had this conversation with a number of people already, but chat used to be terrible in images, and now it's really great. And for a while, I had to use like Google's product, Nano Banana, and stuff like that to do images.
Yeah.
The main platforms are just going to keep one upping each other. So if it doesn't do it today, it might do it tomorrow. And the platform you're on may not be the best one for that the day after that, right? So the other thing about that, and just as we talk about subscription creep, is do not be scared to start on one, because almost all of them have an export function. And so just like we're talking about passing the baton with a chat, you can go into chat and say export, and it'll take a few days because you have a lot of data, but then it'll send you an export file. And then if you wanted to move to Claude, there's instructions for bringing in all of your data that you were on chat and starting with Claude. So you could say, I want to start fresh and go from chat to Claude and just start over. But if you really like what all the stuff you've been doing in chat, you can bring it right in and pick up right where you left off.
Can you do that on free versions of names too?
No, the free does not have an export.
I don't think so.
But so I'm just saying, don't be scared about paying for something and then deciding to switch later, unless you paid for the whole year or whatever. Because if you're paying the monthly for chat and then you do an export and you switch to Claude, then you're good to go.
Claude will serve you well in the code, for sure. Still, yeah. All right. Oh, the other I got one. Let me see if I can go back and find a slide where this is in the chat. I just remembered another a couple questions yesterday where some people looked at this and they're like, what do I do with this? Short answer, absolutely nothing. You don't have to worry about this little guy right here. When you click this is the model. Like we talked about, large language model. This is showing you the model. If you open that up, you'll see a lot of different kind of names that don't make sense, like sonnet, opus, and haiku, and then you'll see numbers after them. The short understanding is like the higher the number, the more robust the model is. And so you've got a range of models that you can click and use. Typically for 95% of whatever you're doing, the default that's already on there is going to be good enough. If you uptick it and you go to whatever their premium model is, you're driving a Ferrari to the grocery store. And it's going to be cool, but you're going to burn through like a lot of usage. It's just overkill. If you end up trying to do something in here, like going through like a deep data dive or processing, and it just feels like it's getting stuck or it's not getting you the right result, then you can try to uptick and give it a little bit more horsepower. You can go in here, because usually they start you right in the middle of the road. So you're already kind of right here with all the models. They give you the right middle of the road so you can do all things. It's the most versatile. If you go up a notch from here, you're getting a lot more horsepower. You're going to hit usage a lot faster. If you go over that and you have a plan that it allows it to just keep charging you, they will be happy to do that. That's not the default, don't worry about that. Or if you go lower than that, it'll work a little bit quicker and it'll have some usage savings, but it's just not going to be as powerful for doing tasks. So 95% of the time, just leave it right there and don't worry about it. If you start running into problems, that's when you can like tweak it. But I just want you to know that the large language model part, that's where the models is. That's what that is. Yes, Jay.
Nick, a related question that I've been curious about. this idea of on your default setting, most, I think all the LLMs have fast response or think more,
Uh-huh.
right? How do you approach that philosophically?
You get a better quality for waiting longer. Yeah, is what it is. So it depends on the task. Again, I think what the default settings are, middle of the road, it's great. It's the most versatile. If you're doing things that are research intensive, this is why Perplexity like is its own model. Like Perplexity answers take longer. You're going to go from waiting for 11, 12 seconds to potentially waiting for 3 to 6 minutes to get a response, which still isn't that much, but like comparatively, it's a lot longer. But the quality of response that you're going to get and the depth of citation and detail is significantly higher. So it's like, where do you want to allocate your usage and your power? Do you want to optimize for like speed so that you can get tasks done because it's not hard work? Or do you want to optimize for deep, meaningful work? You're not going to be able to do as much of it as fast, but the quality of response is going to be really robust. Most cases, certainly everything we kind of covered here, are going to be stick with kind of what the sweet middle ground is. Yeah, good question. Okay, we get back to this last one. Oh, and this was the final note because this came up in a few different conversations. Holistically, I think a really good note is to save more of you. And what I mean by this is when we looked at projects, we saw that you can upload files that have your context, and then you can leverage that for the tasks that you're doing. AI can help you get better at being you. When you give it more context of who you are, or the work that you do, or the work that you're comfortable sharing with the world, then it has a better capacity, all the way back to the Mary Had a Little Lamb example, of giving you a better, more targeted, more custom response that doesn't sound like every other response that it's generating. It sounds like a response that's really designed for you. Here's an example of that. If you have staff meetings that are on Zoom, it's easy to have a transcript. That transcript should go into a folder, because after you have a whole folder full of these call transcripts, if you ever need a source for AI to understand your voice versus somebody else's voice who's been on the calls, it has such a depth of knowledge now, just based off of transcripts, that you're on the calls anyway. Like, it does not hurt to just save those into a folder so that you just have even more material that Claude can now use, or your LLM can use, in order to get to know you or the kinds of problems you're solving. If you like to walk and talk, or you have an idea, if when you're out and you're kind of getting just some outside walk time or whatnot, like if you've got an idea, just voice memo capture it. If you're getting some time outside, you're on a 15-minute, 20-minute walk between meetings, and you've got ideas, talk them into a voice memo and just save it. Because it doesn't cost you anything to save it into a folder, but then at least you have it so that you can go back to the LLM and say, hey, I had this idea yesterday. What do you think? Like, let me work on that. Right now, all those ideas are happening and they're just kind of lost. Anything that you publish that you're confident in sharing, I have a folder of anything that I have written and that I've posted on like LinkedIn, for example, or any newsletters that have gone out, because I can point an LLM to that folder and say, here are real world examples, a whole library of things that I personally posted out. So you know that I was happy with the quality, the voice. This is the kind of stuff that I write about. And now when I ask it to help me write the next thing, it's just so much more powerful. And none of that cost me anything. It was just the intentional decision to say, if I'm on a staff meeting, like, I'm going to download that. There's been some cameras pointed at me through these 2 days, so I think there's some filming going on. Like, I'm going to take the transcription from these 2 days, and I'm just going to put it in a folder. And if I never use it, so what? But I can promise you that I will use it, because the next time we do a round of this, I'm going to hook it up to an LLM, and I'm going to say, here's everything I said at this workshop. Like, literally everything that I said. Like, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I want to change. Here's what's right, wrong, missing, confusing in my eyes. Take a look. Tell me what I'm missing, right? But it can't do that if I don't save it. So I think just a good practice moving forward for everybody whether it's personal productivity or just trying to take advantage of things. If you end up on Good Day Sacramento or somebody posts a blog about your organization, or if you do a quick YouTube video interview, like you're already leaders in your space and you have content that's out there, or you're speaking at events where people are interviewing you, or they're posting about you when you do a fundraiser, like take all of that and just save it, because I promise you that it's super simple to do, and that it is so valuable when you turn to an LLM and you want to get something out of it that feels uniquely like you. The more you give it, the better that output's going to be. So it's a really good practice to have. Any questions about that? Okay. I'm going to turn it back over to any questions about, I guess, in general, particularly about the last 2 days. I'm not really good at life advice. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I missed the first day. Are you gonna go at all?
Forget it.
Because when I was thinking about responsibility, one factor that I think is extremely critical is accuracy. Because I often find that one of its major downsides is that it hallucinates. So
Yeah.
it's extremely convincing and sounding like it knows what the right answer is.
Yeah.
But then oftentimes you realize, hey, they just completely made this up. And I think that AI has to be approached with a lot of caution there, especially when you're trying to take in information. It might actually spit out things that are inaccurate, or it's not actually using it. So like one example of that is there's another tool called Notebook LM. And I don't know if people have heard about it, but it's what the reason I find it really helpful, especially when you're dealing with veracity or accuracy of information, is that it's extremely strict about the sources it uses to generate outputs. And that becomes very important when you're dealing with important documents, communications, really important accuracy of data. Oftentimes what I found with Claude is that, or other LLMs, is that they're going to just draw from its general knowledge and we'll make up facts. And so I just want to bring up again this point. The question is around AI accuracy. I would say that's one of its most dangerous qualities, is that it's so convincing, but it's extremely easy to forget, hey, is what it's telling me even accurate, or do I even believe it? It's very, very easy to be tricked into just believing what AI says. One more comment on this is that MIT published research saying that people who use AI for extensive periods of time, if they're not careful, their critical thinking and analytical skills actually decline. If they've done brain studies where people's that critical thinking component decreases. And so I just want to bring up this point about this larger question about using AI responsibly. It's also about our ability as people to think critically. If we're not careful, we're going to lose that ability over time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We were talking about hallucinations earlier. I was writing a paper recently, and I had my own sources, but I asked AI to find me other supporting or corroborating evidence, and it gave me a whole list, and they looked so legit. It was New York Times,
That's
Harvard Business Journal. It was blah blah blah, whatever, right? They were all complete BS.
Yeah.
Not a single one was real. Not a one. So, and it looked so convincing. And they had links, they had publication dates, they had authors. None of it existed. So
Can I just make one more point on this? Because I think it's extremely critical, especially if you're working in spaces like healthcare, for instance. There are specific AI tools that it's called a RAG, retrieval augmented generation, where it's really just trained on specific sources. So one for healthcare that's extremely helpful, it's called Open Evidence. So that tool only uses peer-reviewed medical journals. And so when you ask it questions, it will only provide things that are backed up by sources. So I just want to bring this because a lot of people in nonprofit space, you're dealing with vulnerable communities, you're dealing with highly important information. It's extremely critical that you're using information and ideas from AI that are independently verified. Because again, it's just common danger. It looks very convincing. You may mistakenly provide misinformation, you may mistakenly believe something is true, but you realize it's false.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feeds into the conversation we just kind of touched on about creating your own knowledge base too, right? Like if because like we did talk about hallucinations a little bit yesterday within the context of like an impact story example. It knows that there should be a story there, but if it doesn't have one, it'll hallucinate and create one. And you're like, I can't send that out because it creates this bad perception of trust in a relationship between me and my audience as well. But if we're saving more of you, if you're saving your own knowledge bank of stories of things, and then you're asking it to cite that specifically, then that is what helps elevate this capacity to know that, oh, what it's sourcing is the things I put in this folder, the stories I know that are true, and it's pulling from that one, and I know that it's happening that way. I think, and to keep the critical thinking approach alive, I like working with it in a way where I know it's quoting me. I say like, here are all my ideas and thoughts and what I think we should be doing. Like, work within this folder and cite that, so that I know that we're going a direction where I'm not as reliant on external sources or things that it might just kind of hallucinate.
Can I make one comment on that? I just did want to say that I've noticed generally when I've looked at the behavior of something like Notebook LM, which is more like a RAG, it functions like the retrieval augmented generation system versus Claude generally. Despite you telling Claude not to take in outside sources, it often will. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. So I think it's really important that you choose the right tool for going to your point, the right tool for the project. We're dealing with veracity information. I highly recommend something that's more like a RAG, something more like a Notebook LM, where it's designed by design. It only can use the sources you give it.
Yeah.
If you use a tool where it's generally getting from its model or other sources, you're risking yourself up, despite you telling it. AI it's very notorious. You'll give it information and say, don't do this. It'll actually say, yeah, I'm listening to you, but it'll just ignore what you said. It's extremely, extremely good at that. It's like it is. So I just want to really hone, because I think in AI responsibility, that accuracy component is the foundation, and you have to think very carefully about the tool you're using. Even if you tell something, if it's not designed for that, it will just ignore you and do the bad thing anyway.
I was just gonna say, to your point yesterday when we were creating those thank you letters to the donors.
Oh yeah. The generic
And
prompt,
you,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you mentioned your prompts and how you write out their prompts. I will say I'm very lazy, and so my prompts are super short. And instead of writing all of that, I just kind of throw in a link. Use my website, meaning our organization's website, and I put in the link to the website to create this thank you, and use a quote from our founder or CEO. And so it was able to create the letter, and it did print out a quote that he often says, and it's on the website. So just wanted to bring that yes, I know that's
Verified.
fictitious stuff, but
Verified.
and I know he says it, so it's like
It's good. That human oversight. That's critical at that. I'm gonna. Yeah, go ahead.
So one thing I'll throw in, and this is,
Yes.
and I started this because I wanted to, I figured that all the different LLMs have different kind of strengths that they have, and I wanted to play them off of each other. So as I was doing some content writing, I'd write something in Claude and have ChatGPT critique it. Hey, what do you think of this? And I found my output was just so much better. The byproduct also is it catches hallucinations better. And I think it's been studied. I call it peer review. Some people like to call it LLM counsel. But having them check each other's facts is one checkpoint for you. You still need to do it, but it's one more way to help resolve that.
And they'll call each other out.
Full on. They'll call each other out, and they'll compliment each other, and you can't trust it entirely either.
It's just like people. I'm gonna transition it back over to Brian. It's been some time for like workshopping. I don't know if you have any notes before we do a little bit of workshop. Or if you want to come back.
I don't have anything specific. We
Okay.
can start with the workshops.
That concludes the formal like training sessions that we're doing. And so we have a little bit of time here where I know the room hosts are prepared to come around, since we started to dip our toe into some of the 201 like project setups. If you want to look at any of those settings, privacy settings, setting up a project, looking at where those buttons are, or how to start getting chats organized in there where you can save context. Now for the next like probably like 20-30 minutes is a really good time for us to be able to just help you do that if you want to do it in person, or for you to be able to start getting that done for your projects.
I do have one thing before we wrap, because I'll come back up and finish. Is anybody needs to leave right away? Probably 11:30. I'll come back and finish. But I wanted to just point out that this is a lot of information, and hopefully you've retained as much as you can. But I think one thing I think about whenever I go to these kind of trainings is like, what's the most actionable thing I can do, like right now, today, tomorrow? And I'd love to actually hear from you, like, what's the like one thing you're like, oh, I'm gonna definitely use AI in this way. I know there's a couple, so give me a couple of these. Yeah.
Our organization is currently accepting RFPs for creating a brand new website. So the second that you mentioned Replit, I went on there and I was like, here's our current website, create something for me. And it took 30 minutes and like 3 prompts from me to just create a baseline. So I'm definitely bringing that back to my team, gonna weigh kind of pros and cons of like, should we spend $15,000 on this third party vendor? Or should we spend $100 a month and organize it ourselves?
And get ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah, it's telling to do it for 12.
So that's
That's
my
so
biggest-
good. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah.
It's very
As an anecdote, I just rebuilt our food bank and park websites in 1 weekend, like literally 2 hours. Exact same process.
Yeah.
Put in our old website and basically said like make this cooler with a few little things, and it did. I'm not gonna share all mine, so I want to hear from you. But one other thing I did, which you might think about, is I built into the contact us form a RAG database, so like a knowledge base behind the scenes, so that when someone puts in a contact us, before the email comes to us, it actually reads the FAQ and it says, "Does this answer your question?"
Oh, that's great.
And then so then it doesn't come to us, and they can also still go, "Yeah, I want to still send the email," but it answers their question, intercepts their question, saves us a ton of time. Yeah. What other like takeaways? Just from that? Yeah.
I just want to say I'm from a small nonprofit and we've been running our nonprofit just on pure passion for the past 15 years and it's volunteer led and but we're at that pivotal point where we're going to branch, we need to branch out, writing grants and participant tracking and that kind of stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm super excited, but the first thing I'm going to do is go back and do a priority roadmap.
Nice. Love that.
But thank you.
Cool. Yeah. What else?
I'm on a ton of different boards, but one of the things that I was thinking about, I'm also on a council, women's council for United Way, and we have like friends in United Way, and so many organizations. Of course, you guys get donate money from us, and we participate in different things. And so, I was thinking about somebody mentioned a volunteer thing, and I was thinking about going back to them and saying, hey, we could create this tool and to track or to help our volunteer base for this Friends of United Way. And that way you guys are not all out, the workers of United Way trying to meet with us to drink coffee and ask us all these different questions. We can just use this tool to connect us to the different activities that we want to sign up for, or it can be smart enough to just shoot out emails to us when there's activities available.
Sounds like a hackathon project to me. Live. What else?
So one of the things that I do, because I handle a lot of the marketing at our food bank, and one of the things I feel inundated with is all of the projects. And one thing that we're trying to do is do some work on the website and just to sit down and think about, okay, I know that this page could use some work. How do I reframe it? How do I look at it? Instead of having to take, an hour to just sit down and think really hard about like, okay, this is what I need. This is what we're missing. I literally put into chat yesterday and I said, hey, this is a website page I'm looking at reframing. This is my goal for what I want visitors, guests, donors to get every time they're on this page. This is what I want them to know. This is what I want them to feel. I want it to feel like a story. I want them to feel like they're a part of it. And so I talked about the logistics, but also the feelings that you have. I said, analyze what our page does well and analyze what we could do better. And then give me a framework and outline for what I can implement. And so I ended up doing that, and I took some time to look it over and I said, oh, these ideas are really great. These ones really don't work for us, but it gave me a really good baseline and starting point instead of having to sit down for so long and analyze it. So while it's not doing necessarily the work that I'm going to implement in the back end design, it's making me think critically about what we could be missing and what we could be doing better. And it gives me someone to talk to without like having to phone a friend or scroll Pinterest or, whatever it is. So
Yeah, that's so good. It feels like a superpower. Right, yeah. So one of the things you might have done this, but screenshots are amazing. So I screenshot stuff all the time, like a website. Take a picture of the website, just paste it into Claude and say, what would make this look better or whatever. And it actually reads the screenshots and does all that work for you. What else?
So Brad, I think one of the things that'd be cool is if there was we have a lot of the same concepts, a lot of same problems, like CRM, right? I've heard that number of times.
Right.
If everyone who like put in their chat, like, this is what I want from a CRM, and then what was the output of that?
Yeah.
Could maybe have like a group think of like, this would be a great place to put that together. I'm like,
Let's do it. Right now?
It should be built whatever it said.
Yeah.
right, that's what I mean, so that we're not replicating
Sure.
everybody's.
Like having your own model. Or another thought is one of the things we're playing around with is could we just build some like base templates, like here's a template CRM that you could just like take as a copy, a starting point, and then you can make it your own.
Yeah.
And again, the cost to build stuff is virtually zero, right? Which is pretty cool. Then you have a CRM that you can then take and run with. There's other variables with that about like, I mean,
I just, I love this so much. As an accountant, I see all the bottleneck of technology
Right.
on the finance side. So I think something I'm walking away with is really trying to pinpoint what are the finance solutions that nonprofits need. I think it's around budgeting, grant management, kind of thinking through what those could look like in a secure environment. This is the hard part about finance right now, is the tools to play with these things isn't safe yet. But I still think we need to kind of learn what the workflow is so that when it is in a secure environment, like what Brad's describing of like the safe place that you can play with things and build things where you're not worried about affecting your finances, but you can maybe get information out. I think there's some really cool stuff there that, so if anybody's got like financial pain points that like, I know many of them, but if anybody wants to give me ideas, I'll.
Well, I had one this morning. We used to use Zoho Books, and now we're on QuickBooks. And Zoho Books weirdly doesn't allow you to export a monthly like report, P&L by month, which is a basic thing. And so I was frustrated this morning, literally as you were walking in. So I just went and exported a month by month report, like January to end of January, and then 12 reports. I put all 12 reports in the cloud and said, make my report, and it did it. Love this stuff. So anyway, couple more, just curious. Yeah.
I think before this, when I thought of AI, I thought of the robot from The Incredibles. You know, in this room, I'm a professional, but also I'm a social worker by trade. And so with social work, we talk about equity and access.
Yeah.
Who's in the room? And so I really look forward to bringing back the strategies of privacy, but also prompts. Dr. Books might not be.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. Great. Yeah. What else? These are great.
So I'm just working on revising and updating our AI policy for our organization. It's a small little generic paragraph in our employee handbook. So I screenshotted, put in, gave it some prompts. So it's working through some of that, but I also, Gina and I looked at each other and like, okay, icebreaker at our next staff meeting, how are you using AI?
Yeah.
Because I know we're all using it, but I don't know exactly how. So I really want to get that information to inform what we need to do as an organization in terms of those individual accounts or, you know, what should be shared, but just I'm going back really trying to learn a little bit more about how everyone's using AI to basically develop a better plan for our organization to keep us safe.
Yeah, there's something about sharing, even some of the stuff we've shared with each other about the wins we've had. Like, oh, we can do that. I will do that, you know. And we were talking before you all got here about like finding some way to create a space where we can maybe once a week jump on a call and just have like AI wins. Because I mean, we would all learn from each other, right? Like, I did this, it worked. Did that, it worked. So we may put something like that together. And if you want to join us, we could make that happen. So great. A couple more. See anything else? Yeah.
Have you found, so all the systems we've discussed have been great in terms of the grant side of fundraising. So that part, you know, obviously is amazing, just analyzing data. One thing I've heard about is sales. Have you found anything that rivals Canva for like our side? So I'm big on screenshots as well. Yeah, there, yeah, it's like, you know, it was.
I have it. Gamma is a decent product. Gamma AI, but not quite up to snuff. I think ChatGPT creates the good like structure, but it's not in pieces. So yeah, I did this week. I actually created something really cool in Canva for ChatGPT, but I had to like break it up into pieces and redo it. It was a good idea, but I had to build it. Come on, people. But anyway, I feel the same. And do you have any like design?
They're trying.
They did. I
New
saw it.
People are trying. There's none that I use regularly that I'm not happy with. It actually, from like a marketing workflow, tends to be still the biggest bottleneck that I'm not getting around things. And I don't use, what I have not done for any clients is use any AI generated images within like outbound content too. Again, for like the trust and authenticity, it's just not the right use case for it. So like that is one option depending on your use case. But
It's a little more,
yeah, but
so we help assist people experiencing homelessness, so we don't want to show this.
Right. Yeah.
So there's creative ways that if you have a group shot and then maybe you can always blur the face, but maybe if there's like are there ethics generating an AI face, if it's just that one face with the other one, maybe you're gonna here. It's like just things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's probably a personal or organizational thing. I don't see any issue with that, but you know, there's a lot of nuance. If sure, those are good questions. Yeah.
You're right there, we're at a conference here. Not tomorrow.
If you're ever bored and want to watch the Canva Create conference, by the way, watch them. They're very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun. But their AI still, the 2.0 still, I don't think.
But there's an arms race for somebody to get to the design, to your credit, like the design bits. Like someone kind of ironically yesterday pointed out, they're like, there's dashes in your slide. You used AI. Or it was, yeah, we had that conversation back. And I was like, yes, but like this is the extent of the design. I decided was like when I'm prepping, I'd rather spend more time talking through and going through the curriculum and creating the curriculum than spending the time doing the slides. And so I like recorded myself I did this presentation 3 times, like start to finish, and then use that recording to end up putting together my whole long speaker notes. But then I went through the speaker notes and used the LLM to help create slide content for my robust speaker notes. And then these slides were just in a Claude chat. I said, but I gave it the clear instructions. But like these obviously are not design technically advanced slides by any means. But that's an example of how I've done the speaker notes. I want to save time on this. So this took a few minutes, a little bit of tweaking, but that would have taken me a lot longer and would have restricted time for me to be able to work on curriculum. So there's kind of the pairing, but obviously it's not robust as far as the design is considered. So.
Any last things?
Just one thing, Nick. So, you know, as we go back and we have an app idea, or we're just redesigning our website, or we're trying to convince, you know, our organization to adopt AI in different ways, what are some practical ways we can have that conversation with our board or our CEOs or whatever to get somebody who doesn't know anything about AI or is kind of scared about what that might mean to adopt it, because it can be so useful for, you know, especially the nonprofit space.
Yeah, I think we covered some of it with starting the conversation of like, how are you using it already? I think there's more people that are already AI curious and using it than you may suspect in your organization, because, you know, we want to get better, like, you know, and people want to be able to feel like they're not falling behind or not doing the best that they can. So I think that having a conversation and to just create clarity is always the best first step, and then kind of navigating it from there. Yeah. Yeah. You found this so that we
Can I piggyback on that real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
So getting a little bit more specific, if you're getting pushback from like senior leadership because they're more risk averse to protect the organization, like any specifics on like mitigating risk with AI if you're doing something that would be public facing, like a website.
Yeah, I think it's always those conversations are happening, and I've had 2 people in this room who have already asked me about how do they talk to their board about this, or like, could you record something I can play for my but like those are the concern. The important thing is not to just immediately dismiss the concern, right? And just to say like, you don't know what you're talking about. We're doing this. You can validate that and say yes, and I hope that through the conversations that we've had in the room today, and even just some of the clarity that we've brought up this morning through paid plans or free plans, or we already have data policy protections, and the people who get to have access to our CRM or anything like that, having those things to frame the conversation and make it relatable, I think really helps move that conversation piece, and also being able to go into specifically like board conversations with the understanding of what the team dynamic is, how it's being used, so that it becomes a conversation that it's about purpose, not preference. Because you and I can disagree all day on the preference of I don't like AI and you do. That's a preferential choice. But if you come to me and you say, I have these 3 staff members who are using AI in this way, and it's creating these results for our organization, I'd like to structure some budget to do this responsibly. You and I can feel very differently about AI, but now we have an aligned purpose, and the conversation's about a purpose decision, not a preference decision. And I find that that makes a lot more, like you see a lot more agreement and compromise with tactics.
Yeah, it's great.
I was gonna say, find a board member that will come to something like this. So like I'm a board member of 2 organizations. And so I wanted to see for myself, like how this could benefit the organizations that I work with, because, you know, one, time is precious. Money is, y'all know. And so I just really want to figure out what's the best way to help my organization get through these hurdles that are coming forward. And so that's, you know, one of the reasons why I decided to come. And then it also benefits me too, right? Because I work full time. I have literally no time to do anything other than watch my soap operas. But and to come to something like this, I can now fit in like the extra things. And now some of the work that I need to do to talk about the organization is lessened, because now I can create an email super fast by just saying, here's some prompts, here's my organization's website, let me throw this in there. Hi, Senators Ashby, this is what I need you to know about my organization. And this is what we need. So find that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so we're gonna be here till noon, but we'll call the training finished. We're here for the next little bit. If anybody has like questions or you want to workshop an idea, just hang out, continue the conversation, feel free. As you saw, I threw up a survey code. We love continuously improving the work we're doing. This is our very first ever AI for Good training. So congratulations on being the inaugural class. You will also get this is in your email, by the way, too. I scheduled an email to go at 11 o'clock. So you got this in your email, which also includes a discount code for the 201 class. So instead of 75, it'll be 25. Yeah. We want you here. That's the main thing. We're not trying to make any money here. So I just got to pay for the room and, things. So, but yeah, so sign up for 201. We have room, and yeah.
Brent, I know you recorded today and you're gonna put it up.
It's in the email.
Oh, in the email.
In the email.
For the future ones, because I can't come to the other 2, but I'd like to follow.
See why we won't just record them, right? Yeah. By the way, you guys all got to meet Haley.
Yeah.
Haley's our intern. You did a great job. Let's give her a round. Yeah, but if you want to do any more videos, we'd love to capture you on video and share them on social media. But otherwise, thanks for being here. Go out and try AI and make it happen. All right.